Hear ye, who likes wyverns? I hope the answer is you, because that's what we're painting today. I got this model from a friend I had in middle school when he went to college, which was also about like 12 years ago now. And with the old world returning, I'm finally gonna paint him. In this shot, I'm either blasting dust off with water or varnishing the primer. I'm not sure, I did both of those, so I'm not sure what's happening here. I'm terrified of models chipping, and I'm gonna do everything in my power to make this guy not chip. And I've heard varnishing primer for metal models actually can do something, so even if it's superstition, I'd rather have done it and have it do nothing than not done it and chip. The green I'm using is a mix of Nostalgia 88 Orc Flesh and Perlacryl Monument Hobbies Yellow Green. I'm really obsessed with what color orcs are, not in a problematic Tolkien way. I generally want them to feel like the less human the better. Warcraft orcs have always felt kind of weird to me. I like it when they're just like cute cartoon monsters. So for this model, we're trying to go for a very vibrant cartoonish green. It felt weird to not use a little bit of goblin green somewhere in the model. So for my first highlight pass, I sprayed some, I think this is just like pure goblin green over the wings and also over the raised parts of the muscle area. I want this guy to be really saturated, so I didn't mix as much flesh tone in as I do with my 40k works because I want him to be a little more cartoonish and like vibrant. If you want to spec fully into cartoonish green monster, I think you could use yellow here instead to get something like even more saturated and vibrant. All the metal was sprayed with this mission model silver, and I used 2 thin coats Ancient Forest for most of his leather, as well as the undercoat on the horns and some of the other like dark areas. I mostly base coat with an airbrush these days, but it's not super necessary. It's actually not necessary at all. It might even be slower than base coating it by hand, depending on who you are. I'm just addicted to airbrushing. Next, I used Seraphim Sepia, a color that I gaslit myself into thinking was called Sepithim Sepia in my previous video because there's a tiny stain of ink that covers the R and makes it look like a P. And that just goes in the recesses of all the flesh, so like in the folds in the wings and like areas like under his jawline. And I did one more highlight of yellow green in the most extreme areas of the green just to bring the saturation back up a tiny bit. And I use Dragon Fang to highlight all the bone areas, mostly because it's a dragon branded paint, but I don't use that often. Olive Flesh, contrary to its name, is a great bone color. I basically only use it for painting bone. Got some Gen 1 speed paint hardened leather that I'm using to just do like the shadowy areas of the horns and the bone stuff. I like that they reactivate personally. It's fun like blending with them after they're dry. I also use this to shade some areas like the scales because it adds a little bit of warmth, just like a tiny little droplet, a tiny little morsel of warmth. I varnished again here because A, being paranoid, gotta varnish this away as much as possible. I don't care if the colors fade, just want them to not chip. And then B, we are gonna start doing more metallic stuff next, and the metallic flakes tend to dull down a bit once you varnish them. Even with gloss varnish, they always look like just a little bit different after you varnish them. I have a really big collection of just like random plants and shit that I use for basing decorations. I start off usually just by like taking ones that I'm thinking of using, putting them next to the base and seeing if it feels right. But before starting to glue them down, I gave everything a final satin varnish coat. I think this is like the 3rd or 4th coat of varnish that I've applied. All the tufts I'm using are self-adhesive, but I feel like they fall off constantly, so I put a little bit of super glue gel down first. I bought these flowers at a local model train store. I feel like they're a little too big and distracting for Warhammer scale unless you clip them down, but if you clip towards the top, the whole thing will like fall apart into a bunch of different individual petals. And then you can cover the bottom of those in super glue and stick them inside your little shrubs and stuff. This fat tub of static grass is one of the parts I've been like most excited about the whole time painting. I feel like static grass represents this era of Warhammer the most, and it's something you like rarely see in this form these days, but this specific color, but it's like super vibrant green at least. The process is pretty straightforward. I just take a big glob of Mod Podge and apply it where I want the static grass to be, and then spend 4 to 5 days vacuuming it all up. Be sure to vacuum on the interior of your lungs too. These little leaves are available from a bunch of different manufacturers. They come in all sorts of different colors. If you live in an area with like more than one plant, then you can get a leaf hole puncher too and make your own, but I live in Los Angeles and I'm a creature of habit and convenience, so I haven't bothered getting one yet. For this kind of base, I try and make it have like just more than one kind of shrub, but it's a delicate balance of like trying to get a bunch of different ones on there without it looking too distracting. So most of these are just like a similar green hue, but there's like a couple dry yellow ones towards the front too. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for hanging out. I'm gonna do more old world stuff soon. I'm trying to just get like a whole army done amongst a couple other smaller projects, so there will definitely be more in the coming months. If you like this, consider subscribing or Patreon or whatever I'm supposed to say. If you own a Subway or some kind of franchise and you want me to, if you own the Trader Joe's in Silver Lake, I would love a sponsor from you specifically, but I'll take any ad revenue that I can get. If you own Raytheon and you want me to sell weapons, I'll do that too. Just hit me up. Goodbye.